Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Empowermultimedia. Now this is going to be a little bit of a different style that you may be accustomed to of the whiteboard animations. These are going to be more so just topics, and this is going to be my honest opinion about particular topics, and I'm going to give it to you raw, authentic, and not scripted. So today we're going to be talking about 3D printing. 3D printing. You know, I'm very curious to see how society is going to be like in 2030, because this and other types of inventions, but this particular industry of 3D printing, I'm certain that it's going to shake up society and the economy. So for those of you that don't know, 3D printing is the act of creating a physical product through a printer. So the way that they do it is they kind of make a 3D render of what they want to make, right? And then for the 3D printer, they have to get a specialized 3D printer depending on what they want to make, whether it's a plastic toy, a body part, human body part, they can 3D human body parts, or even like homes now, they're 3D printing homes. So you, depending on what you're 3D printing, you're gonna have to have the right filament in it, and it's going to slowly but surely make layers upon layers upon layers until that object that's rendered becomes a physical product. So that's kind of like the process of 3D printing. And disclaimer, I am not an expert on this field. I just know my master's. My intellectual property professor, he made us watch a lot of different videos about this, and especially about a company called MakerBot. Now they're pretty big in that space, and I was very fascinated about just the industry of 3D printing. And when I tell you I can just see it, like it's a winner, I can just see 3D printing being a winner for the future, right? 3D printing kind of reminds me of, and it's kind of hard for me to say this because I'm still very young. It's very similar to how like the era right before the internet is blowing up, because I think 3D printing is gonna have a huge impact, kind of like the internet. So some of you may be wondering why I think this. Well, kind of like I mentioned before, we're still early on in the process, right? But down the road, as we get better and technology gets better and society figures out more ways to utilize 3D printing and print more specific or diverse objects, there's not telling what we can't print, right? Potentially people can print cars. People are already printing body parts. People are already printing types of organs. I don't think they're necessarily at the stage where they can replace physical or vital organs in a body, but you can 3D print an ear. You can 3D print a nose probably. And they're evolving and they're getting better, right? In terms of like housing, like I mentioned before, in China, I know that they're 3D printing houses at a cheaper rate than it is to construct a house right now. And it goes on and on and on, right? So some of the very big pros about 3D printing is the cost. It is significantly cheaper for you to get a 3D printer and 3D print objects than constantly going to either a retailer or wholesaler and buying the products, right? And businesses as well as consumers utilize these 3D printers. What I didn't know is how common it is starting to be in people's homes, especially if you're in that space. You don't be surprised in like the next 3 to 5 years where you start seeing 3D printers at people's houses, and it's kind of like commonplace, because eventually people are not going to be buying plates, spoons, silverware, things like that anymore. They're just going to 3D print it at their house, right? That's kind of like where we're becoming. That's where we're going to be going in society, which I think is kind of interesting. And another thing that you're going to have to realize is how that's going to disrupt the market. Because places like, you know, that sell all that stuff. Now, I'm not saying I could read the future, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be hard for them to stay in business if all you have to do is 3D print a plate in the future instead of going to Walmart and buying it, or things like that, right? In terms of food. Maybe in the future we could 3D print our own food. The possibilities are endless. Like, I'm just trying to think right now, like, what we possibly can't 3D print. Now, don't get it twisted now. The bigger or the more I guess wanted the object, probably the more expensive the printer and the film is gonna have to be, because you're not gonna pay for a 3D printer the same price that you would pay for a 3D printer that'll be able to make a house. That's not how it's gonna work. But it's definitely going to be a possibility where you can literally just print your own house in the future, or you can actually just go to a business and they're gonna print a house for you, and it's gonna be a fraction of the cost of what it is to buy a house now. Well, I'm not sure what the average of a house is. Maybe if it's 200,000, maybe 150,000, depending on where you are. Right? In Florida, houses are typically a little cheaper, but then I wouldn't be surprised if that gets cut down by 75% down the road. Like, you're gonna be able to build a nice, modern, brand new house for maybe like $25,000, or maybe cheaper down the road, right? So that's 3D printing for you, and still a new space. For those of you that are really big in startup, I would recommend you looking and deep diving into this industry. I'm not saying you have to get into it, but looking into it, because that's one of the few. It's still so new that you can still make a lot of groundwork, because there's not really a lot of people dominating the space like that. I do know like MakerBot's one of them, and there's a couple others that started off really well, but it's still so new, right? And if you construct yourself a team, who knows what could happen with you, right? Investors, if you invest in a lot of stocks, things like that, 3D printing may be something you want to look into, especially for you see, this is what I'm talking about when I say it's unscripted. So in terms of the medical ways, or the medical field, 3D printing is going to play a huge role. Probably going to reduce crime too. Like, there's not going to be reason for people to organ harvest if you could just 3D print organs now. And there's going to be better ways for people to. It's going to be just more sufficient for people to do things in the medical field, and probably reduce cost expenses and cost of treatment for people in healthcare in general if we can 3D print things, right? So like I mentioned before, it's endless possibilities. I'm very fascinated in the space, and I really do think it's gonna be a big hitter. I could be wrong. Maybe this is just a fad, and 5 to 10 years from now, this doesn't go nowhere, and we actually go a different department, right? We go a different industry, a different space. But as of now, I think 3D printing is definitely in the future. Now, this is not just for my opinion. I want to start like a conversation in the comments. Like, let me know your opinion. Let me know if you think there's a different industry you might want to look into, right? So let's start a conversation in the comments and really like build. This is what Empowermultimedia is about. Empowering each other about different things. I'm talking about business, entrepreneurship, maximizing time in college, things like that. The future of businesses, which is why I made this video. And if you do want to hear about my takes on artificial intelligence, drop a comment or like down below, and I'll get to that too. So that being said, I'm kind of signing off on this video. If you do like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, and definitely share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you.